currency exchange is often an overlooked part of the purchase process. You know, they're so tied up in the legal fees, finding the property, making sure the area is right, that the currency exchange element for a lot of international buyers is something that they either leave to the last minute or don't really think about. What currency exchange companies like ourselves do is we get the client a much better rate of exchange when sending their funds to Spain for their property purchase, which, you know, can lead to thousands in savings, especially when transferring the amount that they need for property purchases here on the Costa del Sol.
But when it comes to other kind of transactions, companies like Wise or Revolut that have a better interest rate in the foreign exchange, what would be the main difference?
There is a potential, and it's happened in the past, where clients, lawyers' bank account details have been altered because someone's hacked their server, and there's been occasions where they've been sent the wrong details. We verbally confirm that account number with the recipient account holder.
Yeah. So Elliot, my next question could be, can we trust you? How can I know that, Elliot, next time I see you're driving a new Ferrari?
Well, of course. What really is important is our...
Hello everyone, greetings from the Costa del Sol. This is Santiago Llera, your realtor here in Spain. And today I have the pleasure to receive Elliot from Place in the Sun.
Good morning. How are you, Santiago?
Thank you so much, Elliot, for coming here to our office. And I'm very excited to talk about you, to have someone from Place in the Sun here on the Costa del Sol. And the first question I want to ask you, Elliot, I'm going straight to the point. I know you work for the Foreign Exchange department of Place in the Sun portal. It's also a TV show for the people that don't know it. But Elliot, the reason I want to ask you, as you can see on the title as well, this video is about foreign exchange. All right. Why people send you hundreds of thousands of euros to your company to buy a property in the Costa del Sol in Spain?
Perfect. Well, that's a great question, Santiago. So clients, when they're buying property in Spain, currency exchange is often an overlooked part of the purchase process. You know, they're so tied up in the legal fees, finding the property, making sure the area is right, that the currency exchange element for a lot of international buyers is something that they either leave to the last minute or don't really think about. What currency exchange companies like ourselves do is we get the client a much better rate of exchange when sending their funds to Spain for their property purchase. And we're also able to cut out their international transfer fees as we hold accounts locally and internationally. So the main reason is that we save them anywhere up to about 4% in comparison to using their bank directly, which, you know, can lead to thousands in savings, especially when transferring, you know, the amount that they need for property purchases here on the Costa del Sol.
But how much are we talking about? For example, if we have a property like a regular, 90% of the buyers of Costa del Sol from abroad, they're the ones who need it, like from the UK or the United States, that have the money in dollars. What happens with them is, like, they normally do in their mind the budgets and calculations for the properties which are around 300,000 to 400,000. That's the budget of 90% of the buyers, to be honest. So they made these budgets calculating the rates in that moment they do the budget.
So if the client was looking to send the funds directly through a US or UK bank, firstly, they're hit with a set of international transfer fees, which can lead up to, you know, they can be thousands in themselves just on that amount. And they're also taking quite a large margin when they're sending the funds just on the exchange. The thing with high street
banks are greedy.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, what they do, they kind of capitalize on it being the client's first choice. You know, naturally you think, right, I've got my money with my bank, I'm going to use them to send the funds overseas. You know, that's what I would have thought before I got into this industry.
And they're used to do national transactions of free of cost, so they are used to this. It's a normal transaction for them. But when it comes to other kind of transactions, when it goes, for example, to companies like Wise or Revolut that have a better interest rate in the foreign exchange compared to you, what would be the main difference?
So Wise and Revolut are not our direct competitors. So online only services like them, they play in the same field, but they don't offer the same level of service that we offer. Rate wise, we can compete with these online only services, but where we really, you know, what sets us apart is the level of service which the client gets when they come to us. A lot of clients, you know, when they're buying overseas, that they're at an age where you're not always used to doing payments online. Things are done nowadays where everything is forced through an online channel, and especially when you're sending hundreds of thousands for a property purchase, you need to really speak to somebody about the best way to do it. A Place in the Sun, we would assign a personal account manager to every client. They can guide them on the best time to do the exchange rate. We're constantly fed with news articles of a potential interest rate cut from the Bank of England or the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates, all which have effects on people's currency exchange rates. So we don't only get them a much better rate of exchange, but we can also actually make them make a financial plan and a strategy of when is the best time to transfer. If a client is making a reservation today of €6,000, but the property doesn't complete for another 4 months, in those 4 months, the exchange rate could go up and down like a yo-yo. If the client is, if they're factoring in what the cost is today on today's dollar exchange rate, Donald Trump opens his mouth in 3 weeks and the rate plummets, then that's going to add thousands that they didn't factor in when budgeting. So we can offer a number of different services to protect the client against those exchange rates, the fluctuations in the rate, I should say. And obviously with holding accounts locally, internationally, so to say a client is in the UK, they would just be doing a local transfer into our sterling account, and then we would send the euros out of our European side. So cutting out on the international exchange rates, transfer fees, getting them a better exchange rate. Say if a client was looking to send around 400,000, through their bank in comparison to us, we're looking to, make them savings potentially of 10 to 15,000 euros.
You mentioned something interesting there, that you said that you guys can actually lock the exchange rate.
Correct.
Is that possible? So basically, if you are budgeting your purchase and you sign a reservation contract, which is very common, most of our clients right now are investing in new developments.
Of course.
And this is very important for them, because when you make a budget, you don't want to take the risk that your dollar will drop down, which is potentially a risk right now. So what you guys do is actually, when you pay the reservation down for your new development, meanwhile you wait for the PPC time when you need to put down the 30%, which is a big amount of money. You guys hold the euros actually in the rate that was done.
Correct.
And so how exactly works the process? So if you have, I am a buyer in the US and I have my money in my bank account in dollars, how exactly you send that to Spain?
Of course. So say, for example, we'll make a situation here. You're a client. You've just reserved a new build property. You've paid the initial reservation fee. You have, the 30% coming up in a couple of months. And then you have the completion, the full amount on completion, say, in 12 months once the property is completed. The first reservation payment that the client would make today would be based on today's exchange rate. Now, what the client can do, they can either just make spot payments, is what we call them, spot transfers, where when 4 months down the line, they can make the next 30% payment, but it's
based on the rate.
But it's going to be dependent whatever the market rate is. Then we obviously can't, we don't have any control over that. That's governed by international banking and where the markets are. Now, what can happen in that time period is obviously we can see the dollar take a hit on its value within those 3 months. And in 12 months, the client, there's a lot of risk in 12 months for where the exchange rate may go. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, a Place in the Sun currency. If we did, we'd all be multimillionaires. But we can look at trends and we can see where the market is moving. So we have 2 options that we can advise clients in those situations. We can either advise them where we think the market is going, and then they can make spot transfers based on that. Or we have forward contracts, which is very, very useful for these clients who are buying new build properties. What it basically allows them to do is they can lock into today's exchange rate for a period of up to 2 years, which obviously, if the client is budgeting the full purchase price today based on 400,000 euros, and the rate today is favourable for them, then they can lock that in for 2 years. That means all they have to do is put 10% of the amount that they need to lock in down into their account. So on 400,000, we would hold 40,000 as a deposit, and then we can hold that rate for 2 years. So then as the next stage payments come up, say the rate, has dropped for, 3% in that time. If they didn't take out a forward contract, then that's going to add thousands onto their, costs additionally when they actually need to buy the property. But if they take a forward contract and they're locked in, when the rate drops, they're still able to trade at that beneficial rate. So that's massively beneficial.
So that's what you just said is very interesting, because I would like to explain it like more for the mortals,
Yes.
to explain it a bit more in an easier way to understand. So what we are talking about, you have a service called
forward contracts.
Contract. What means is like let's say you have to pay 30% of your property in February next year. You sign the reservation contract with the developer, and you have to pay, let's say, 100,000 in February. Go to Place in the Sun and say, I have to pay 100,000 to the developer in February, but I want to lock the rates today. So the way to lock this rate for the 100,000 payment that you need to do in euros next year, you pay 10,000,
correct,
right, to Place in the Sun, and then next year, February, you send the dollars with the exchange rate. You sign with the 10% down,
correct,
and then Place in the Sun send it to the developer and do that payment for you in euros according to the rate that you signed previously when you did the 10% down payment. It's a great service. I think it's very useful for budgeting without doing all the down payments straight away. I think it's very interesting to do that. And probably after this video, you will have people contacting you we have plenty of clients after this season who reserve plenty of new developments. So we are waiting for the PPCs and waiting for the big down payments, but we are worried about this exchange rate might change in the future, especially with all these war drums going on.
Well, that's the main thing. I mean, the forward contracts which we offer clients, it is a double-edged sword, because there is always the risk that the rate may go up and they are locked in at that lower exchange rate. But, clients who are buying properties, they don't want to be gambling on the exchange rate markets. They just want to know that the price which I agreed today is going to be the price that I pay when the last brick is laid at their property. So that allows them to obviously cut out any external factors, and that they know that that amount is going to be the same as soon as that property completes.
Yeah, 100%. And something about the process before we close this topic. Is it actually before you send the money to any person, let's say, we'll talk about new development, what resales, right? If it's a private owner of a property, you guys do some kind of checks before sending these hundreds of thousands to somebody else?
Of course.
Because if I would do it through Wise or Revolut, it's just an online banking. There's no checks at all. Do you guys do some kind of, what about security and safety?
Of course. So this is what really sets a Place in the Sun currency apart from online only services like that, is that our company is basically built from the ground up to assist clients with property transactions, large money orders. When we receive a new account for a beneficiary, so say, for example, you're looking to buy a resale property from an estate agent, and most bank account details which are sent to the client between the agent and the lawyer is all done via email. Now, an issue that unfortunately is not rife, but it is a problem, in Spain, that naturally estate agents, a lot of them are self-employed, a lot of them may be small scale estate agents that don't have the greatest data security or, protections with encryptions from emails. And there is a potential, and it's happened in the past, where clients, lawyers' bank account details have been altered because someone's hacked their server, and there's been occasions where they've been sent the wrong details.
Yes.
What we do at A Place in the Sun is whenever we receive an account number we've never sent money to before, we verbally confirm that account number with the recipient account holder. So we would call the agent or the lawyer or the developer first and say, look, we have this client, they've instructed us to make a payment to you for the reservation of this property. Can we verbally confirm the IBAN with you? And we would do that over a recorded line. And only at that point would we authorize the payment for the money to go through. Online only services like Revolut and Wise is completely up to you. And it's completely down to you to make those payments. So in the unfortunate event that something like that does happen, you have no protection. You have no, you don't have an extra layer of security of your account manager looking out for these things. So that's one massive thing which we are also able to protect against on, the anti-fraud side for clients.
So Elliot, my next question could be, can we trust you? How can I know that, Elliot, next time I see you, you're driving a new Ferrari?
Well, of course.
I mean, Place in the Sun, it's a brand which is built with trust, and real estate is a matter of trust. So to reach the level that Place in the Sun has, but not everybody knows this brand. I'm talking more for people from the US or other countries like Germany that don't know much. In the UK, it's a national television show about real estate, and you have this foreign exchange company. But the question is like, can we trust Place in the Sun for this service? That's my question.
Of course. So, A Place in the Sun, it does have the brand. It's a long-standing brand within the UK property industry. But, clients, when they're sending money, the name of a brand only goes so far. What really is important is our regulation. So we're regulated by the FCA in the UK, which is the Financial Conduct Authority. And we're also regulated to operate by the Bank of Spain here, which not all currency companies are, which is quite an important fact, especially for sellers who are looking to send funds back to their home country. What this allows us to do is we can operate client accounts with Sabadell here in Spain, which are regulated, safeguarded.
Can you open a bank account for them?
So no, it's our client account, but it's segregated. So they have a client number within our banking system. So our banking partners are Sabadell and Barclays, which we use in the UK. And
Barclays there and Sabadell.
Correct.
It's a good combination.
Exactly. So the client's money is held in client accounts with these two banking partners. And like I said, they're safeguarded. They're insured as well against any, fraud or anything of the sort. And the main thing is that when the clients are looking to use us, everything is very transparent. Our security is our main selling point, because A Place in the Sun, we're one of the only currency companies as well which has almost a third tier of regulation, which is the brand itself. We were formed to begin with as a property media company. Over 20 years ago, we have the television program, we have the property portal, the exhibitions, and there's another question which a lot of clients have is, A Place in the Sun, a currency, is it owned by A Place in the Sun, or is it just?
That's what I wanted to ask you. That would be my next questions, because I see sometimes big brands they are focusing their stuff, but they normally have a third-party service hire. Is it this service of currency exchange something that is really Place in the Sun employees, or is it a third-party service?
Correct. So obviously we've only sprung up over the last 5 years as A Place in the Sun currency, but the actual core business currency index was formed in 2008, and A Place in the Sun bought out currency index in 2020, 2021. So it's fully owned by A Place in the Sun. It's not a white labeled service where we have no control over the actual operations. It's fully owned by A Place in the Sun, and we have control over all aspects. So clients can be, rest assured that it is a brand owned by A Place in the Sun, not just a third-party service with our name slapped onto it.
That's good to know. That's brilliant. And what about what is going on right now? Because for Place in the Sun, I'm used to that through the years, and here in Spain, it's a company from the UK, which is in the UK, giving services in Spain, but I'm seeing people now here physically on the costa. So what is going on with Place in the Sun? What are you guys doing?
Of course. So, Santiago, me obviously meeting you, I came down from our head office in the Costa Blanca, which we opened up last year. My role coming down here is to grow the team, across the board, whether it's on the currency exchange side, the digital side, really to, have a bit more presence here and be able to assist clients face to face. As you know, currency transactions and all these kind of things are done online now or over the phone, but it's still nice for a client to be able to meet me in person. I can offer them a quote there and then, explain the service in person, especially clients who are a little bit more elderly, would like things explained to them. At the end of the day, we're dealing with people's life savings here. They've saved them all their life. They're 100%. Looking to they want to relax, they want to retire in the Costa del Sol, and if they're a little bit unsure about how the process works, I can come and meet them in the office, explain the situation to them, how the service works, what the savings actually are on the funds that they want to send, and really just to grow the team here. It's a large coastline. There's a lot to cover, and you see the new developments coming up. You see the prices rising. You see the market, how hot it is, and for us to have a base here coming into next year and to have a team to offer proper support to clients here is the main reason. Happy
to hear that. Yes. And what about your future plans? Where is that going? What's your future coming for the portal,
Yeah.
for the currency exchange department? What are you guys planning? What is cooking over there in place in the
I can't tell you everything.
For my subscribers, will be happy to hear that.
Of course. Well, I can't tell you all of the plans, but across the currency exchange service now, we pretty much have everything tied up. We have a third-party service who helps us with US residents, so we can help all US residents now for buying here on the Costa del Sol. Our regulation with the Bank of Spain, which we have now. But on the portal side, which is very interesting, especially for your clients who are looking to maybe buy and sell, we're actually offering now an app next year. So clients can obviously look at properties up and down the coast. They can draw a circle around the areas that they're looking for. Multiple language versions as well. So we're really looking to increase the amount of properties and listings that we're offering to clients here on the Costa del Sol, and obviously introduce them to fantastic agents like yourself who can actually
thank
help
you for
them.
that. Fantastic agents like myself. Yes, thank you for that. Now we work hand to hand with Place in the Sun for several years, but the main thing is like to have someone physically here to give face to face to clients when it comes to delicate topic like currency exchange. Thank you so much, Elliot, for coming down here to our office and to our studios, and we'll be happy to see you next time when we need one of my clients to do the currency exchange.
Fantastic.
And if you guys willing to have any kind of questions related to exchange rates or anything related to that, I will put in the description a link to a form that we can do a free answer all your questions with an online meeting to answer all your questions related to currency exchange or mortgages. Feel free, happy to do that, and see you in the next video. Okay, bye then.